Alistair, great to see you again. Let's talk about the enormous game that you've got Saturday. And I use that word for a reason because it's like a cup final. And you've been winning cup finals lately.
Yep.
So what's the mindset heading into that game that you don't want to get too far ahead and obviously just get the job done?
No, it's exactly that. It's a cup final for us. We see it like that, but at the same time is that we're not putting too much pressure on ourselves. We know that we have the group to do it. We have the talent there. And again, it's not too often in football that you get a second chance. And with how that Jamaica tie went down, of course, that it feels kind of like a long time ago now. It feels like it was in a different calendar year. It's about 5 months now. And we've kind of turned the page, but at the same time that you don't often get a second chance. So we're going to take that with both hands, grab it, and just kind of really enjoy that match. It's a great opportunity for us to go out and, again, get to where we want to be, which is playing in those major tournaments. And that's what Copa America is. So we're not looking too far ahead. We know there's going to be a difficult match. It's 90 minutes where, you got to leave it on the line like it is a cup final. And we're lucky enough we got a group that have actually quite a bit of experience in cup finals and these big matches. A lot of guys have played the World Cup here. So it's like there's not international experience. There's not big game experience. We have plenty of that. So we just really need to fall back on our fundamentals, stick to the game plan, and we feel pretty confident.
You mentioned it, almost 5 months, just over 17 weeks. We know in football there's constant change, right? And there's change here. There's change within the squad. There's some senior players that are not here. There's been a constant change now in terms of Mauro Biello's selection. How different does it feel without some of those senior players?
It's very different. There's no doubt about that. It's funny, we were on the bus and we were looking around. I went to Sam and Crepeau, I think, are now the oldest ones. And of course, Sam has been here what feels like 3 decades with the national team, but at the same time, like seeing him going into now the oldest player in a camp is probably odd for him as well. But that just shows that, it is an ever-changing game, an ever-changing landscape in football. And again, this is for this camp. You never know what the future's going to hold for anyone in our player pool. So it's definitely a different vibe. It's a younger vibe. New players need to step up in terms of leadership roles and just taking more ownership in terms of you have to be the ones that guide this. And it's not been easy, especially when you lose someone like Atiba, who has been just that set-in-stone leader and the one that everyone can look up to no matter what age you've been, probably for the past 15 years kind of within this program. So losing him, it definitely put a bit of a void, which you can't really ask one player to step into that and expect to be the Atiba Hutchinson, the heir to the throne in that aspect. So it's been really good, I think, in terms of over the past, year or so, understanding what kind of players are going to need to step up, and also understanding that it's not going to be one player. It's going to be a committee of guys, helping out, making those decisions and keeping everyone in check and guiding this program to where we want to be and continue to take those next steps. But you're exactly right. It hasn't been, the easiest thing ever. It's been a lot of, players potentially doing things that they're maybe uncomfortable with.
Right.
And that's something that we need if we want to take those next steps.
Very well said. You said keeping players in check. A key level of high performance is taking responsibility, right? And Mauro was asked to reignite the passion. That's some of the words he's used. What needs to happen now that has maybe not happened over the last year or two for you in your eyes?
Again, it's playing with that underdog mentality. I think that throughout qualifying, when you look back on those matches, we really were overlooked by everyone, even people within our own country. And that really put a bit of a fire, lit a fire under us. And then once we got there, I wouldn't necessarily say that the general public all of a sudden thought, oh, Canada's a footballing nation, but we definitely got a lot more praise and it was maybe something that we weren't used to. And again, you look at our group, it's a very hardworking group and a humble group. So it almost helped us being that underdog. So I think that once the expectations changed to, okay, well now we're expected to win trophies and stuff, things change, expectations change, and the expectations within the building have to change as well. So I think that happened probably quicker than any of us were really ready for. But at the same time is that now we're in a place where potentially the expectations have dampened from the outside, but for us, we still think that we are one of the top squads in CONCACAF and that we can compete with anyone in this region. But at the same time, we need to go out there and prove it because over the past 12 to 18 months, the results haven't been good enough to be able to say that you are one of the top dogs in CONCACAF, and we completely understand that too. So I think for us, it's been nice where we can get back to our roots of, yeah, we're going to go out there, we're going to grind, we're going to be a difficult team to play against, but at the same time is that we do have that top level talent that can compete with anyone in this region, and we believe that, you know, we can really take strides to chipping away at that world ranking and really getting into that top tier of teams.
You're playing every week for an enormous club in Celtic with a brilliant fan base. And you know, I'm sure you've improved a lot as a player technically on the field, but I want to ask you mentally. You worked under some great managers. Now you've got Brendan Rodgers, you were with Ange Postecoglou. What have you learned and absorbed playing for this team under those leaders and with those veteran players to help Canada now going forward, Alistair?
Yeah, it's a great point. Again, I've seen two different types of management styles at the highest level between Brendan and Ange. Very different, but at the same time, they've both been very successful in their own rights. And it kind of opened my eyes again to there's different ways to do it. There's not just one way to skin a cat. As we've seen, you know, from Pep to Jurgen Klopp, they're just completely different styles of football, but at the same time is that it works at the highest level if you have complete buy-in. So that's something that I really learned, is that if you believe in the system and all the players are pulling in the same direction and everyone truly understands their role, I think that that's when you really get the best out of players. I think that sometimes when there's a bit of confusion, whether that's the coach's fault or the player just not understanding it, that's when you can have some difficulties. So for me, it really comes down to what I've seen at these top teams is, again, having a very direct plan where players know exactly what's expected of them on and off the pitch. It makes it very simple, but at the same time then also having leaders where within the team that hold everyone accountable. And I think that I'm lucky enough at Celtic to have played with some big names, of course. Joe Hart, Callum McGregor, our captain, it's really inspiring just to see how he leads. It's different to anything that I've ever seen before. And he kind of falls into that Atiba category of someone that, again, when he walks in the room, there's kind of a different just feel instantly. The air kind of gets, there's just an aura to him. And that's something that, again, can't be forced. It's got to be genuine. And when you get to that level, you realize that there really only are a handful of those kind of guys in world football. So that's kind of what I found playing at the high level, where the pressure is just so demanding week in, week out, is that you need to know exactly what you're doing. You need to try and just limit the variables as much as possible and let guys just stick to a very, coordinated plan that everyone believes in. And if you do that, you can really just block out a lot of that noise and just focus on the football.
What's it like though, mate? Like playing, like how's the season been? I know you're playing a lot. I know Rangers are coming now, and like, do you lie awake at night sometimes going after a bad game and then after a great game? Like, how have you managed your own expectations?
Yeah, it's difficult because, again, you can feel the pressure. It's nothing like I experienced in the MLS, just because, first of all, the rivalry is obviously a lot deeper.
Just a little.
Just a little. And you share a city with your rival.
Yeah.
So you know when you walk out the door that you're going to get recognized, but you're not sure if you're going to be loved or hated. And that's kind of an interesting thing that you have to learn with and deal with quickly. But at the same time you feel the pressure. You're not only expected to win, but you're expected to win in a certain way. And we felt that a lot this year, which has been difficult. And there's not nearly as big of a, kind of that period of grace given when there is a lot of change. A new manager comes in. At these kind of clubs, there's no time to have that, that period where, there's things that are new. We're going to have time to build that. It's not like that. These massive clubs, it's straight in. The pressure's there right from the get-go. The expectations are there. So dealing with that, it takes a big personality. And that's what I found as well, is that in order to make it that level, you need to have a level of mental fortitude, perseverance, and resilience, because not every day is going to be as great as it seems to the outside world. There's a ton of pressure. You're dealing with a lot. And that's why it's so impressive when you see guys like Fonzie who've been doing it at that kind of level from such a young age. He's almost, not fazed by it at all. It's just white noise to him at this point. But if you put an average person in there, it's really hard to comprehend what these kind of guys at that level are going through on a day in, day out basis.
Right. A couple more for you. You mentioned mental fortitude. What about humility? I mean, you're just a Canadian kid who played football in the basement with your brother watching Premier League on the West Coast, and now you're playing in front of 60,000. Like, have you check yourself sometimes, or your girlfriend or your mom and dad? Like, do they have to check yourself sometimes just to make sure that like you come back down to earth sometimes? Because that's important too.
Yeah, no, it's 100%. It's massive. It's a massive thing. Again, it's crazy now with how the football calendar is. You rarely even get that time just to take a step away and truly just enjoy what you've done. And at the end of last year, I was able to kind of take a week and just realize, like, wow, I've just done a treble. Like, that's not something that a lot of people can even say they've done. And even in the storied history of Celtic, that was only our 8th ever treble. And you put into context like that, you're like, wow, I'm a part of history. And those are the kind of moments that you go, okay. But at the same time, before you know it, you're into the next match, you're into another international window, and there's always the next trophy. There's that hunger, and that's what keeps these guys, and keeps guys like myself so hungry at that top levels. There's always another trophy. There's always something bigger and better. And that's the difficult thing about being such a competitive person. So yeah, managing that, you need to have a good group of people around you to keep you in check and remind you that, what you are doing is special. So even when it's going great, it's never as good as it seems, but if it is, you're struggling, it's really not as bad as it seems either. So that's been something, again, you have a good group around you, and I think that's what can maximize that.
The other team, right? The other team that's special. Last one for you. What does it mean for Canada to get into this Copa America? I know everyone's talking about Atlanta, 20th of June, Messi, World Cup champions. Yeah. But Copa America in general, that tournament atmosphere before going into 2026, what could it mean to this program?
It's the perfect preparation. It's about as close to home soil as we're going to get with a major tournament before the World Cup. And there is no better preparation for a World Cup than playing in a tournament like that. The quality, it goes to the World Cup, and then Euros and Copa America would be that next tier down, you could say. So it's one of the biggest tournaments in the world. It's here, it's in the U.S., and it's just a perfect testing ground for us to see where we're at, if we're ready to deal with the hostile crowds of, you're exactly right. If it's Atlanta, it's going to be 80,000 Messi jerseys. There are not going to be a ton of Canadian jerseys in there. And we understand that. We're used to that now. So it's exactly that. No matter how many friendlies you want to play, nothing prepares you like tournament football where there's something on the line. So it's exactly that for us. We understand that Trinidad's going to be a cup final so that we can get into the best tests possible before we go into a home World Cup where no matter what happens, we will be remembered for it for a long, long time.
Well, good luck Saturday. I always enjoy our conversations and always learn something.
Thanks,
Alistair.
Appreciate
you.